All right, so today we're diving headfirst into The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And let me tell you, this is not your typical self-help book.
It's definitely more like a guidebook for a total mind shift.
Absolutely. It really encourages you to experience life differently right here, right now. And one of the most powerful ideas is this. You are not your mind.
Yeah, that one tends to throw people off a bit.
Right. Because we're so used to identifying with our thoughts, all that mental chatter.
And we give it so much power. Tolle compares the mind to a tool, which is a great analogy. Like, imagine a hammer useful for specific tasks, but not something you want to carry around constantly.
Exactly. It becomes a burden, just like our thoughts can become a burden if we let them.
He emphasizes that all that mental noise, it's not the real you. There's a deeper awareness behind it all, and that's where true peace and joy reside.
It's like we get so caught up in the past and future that we completely miss out on the present moment.
And the present moment is all we've really got.
So how do we escape that time warp? Tolle talks about portals, these practices that help us tap into a deeper reality. And one of them is connecting with the inner body.
Ah, yes, the inner body. It's not just about being aware of your physical sensations, but really like experiencing them from the inside out.
Okay, I can see how that could be a portal to the present moment. How do we actually do that?
It's simpler than you think. You know, paying attention to your breath, feeling the sensations of your feet on the ground, it's about shifting your focus from thinking to feeling.
Interesting. So instead of analyzing or judging, we're just observing, being present with those sensations.
Exactly. And it's amazing how just that simple shift can create a sense of peace. It's like hitting the pause button on that mental chatter that's usually running on autopilot.
Okay, I'm starting to get this. But what about our relationships? How does the power of now apply to those messy, complicated, wonderful parts of life?
It really shines a light on how we often use relationships to try to fill a void within ourselves.
Like we're looking for someone else to complete us.
Exactly. And that never really works out because true fulfillment comes from within.
So we end up with all these unrealistic expectations and attachments, and then we're surprised when things get messy.
Right, because we're approaching relationships from a place of lack rather than from a place of wholeness.
It's like we think, if I can just find the perfect partner, then all my problems will be solved. But that's not how it works, is it?
Not at all. Tolle believes that true love can only blossom when we move beyond those ego-driven needs and connect from a place of present moment awareness.
So it's about meeting in the other. Now, seeing the other person not as a means to an end, but as a fellow traveler on this journey of life.
Precisely. And it's not about escaping from the world or from relationships, but about being more fully present and conscious within them.
That's a really different way to think about love.
It is, but it's also incredibly freeing.
I can imagine. It's like we're taking back our power, choosing to experience love from a place of wholeness rather than neediness.
Exactly. And that's when the real magic happens.
So before the break, we were talking about how we often seek completion in relationships when it's really an inside job, right?
It really is. And that ties into this idea of embracing peace rather than chasing happiness. It's a big one.
It is.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of programmed to think that happiness is this thing we have to achieve.
Yeah.
Like, if I could just get that, do this, be with them, then I'll be happy.
And Tolle flips the script on that. He's like, nope, there's a deeper state of being.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this deeper state.
It's about tapping into that lasting peace that's always there beneath the surface of our thoughts and emotions.
You mean even when life gets crazy, even when things aren't going our way?
Especially then. He uses this really cool analogy of a lake. Think about it. The surface can be all choppy, waves crashing, wind blowing.
I'm picturing it now.
But deep down, the lake bed is still and silent. Our true nature is like that lake bed, always peaceful, even when storms are raging on the surface.
I love that visual. But how do we access that stillness, that peace, especially when our buttons are getting pushed in relationships?
Ah, yes. Relationships. The ultimate training ground for presence.
Right. Because, let's be real, things can get kind of messy in the relationship department.
For sure. And that's where Tolle's insights about the pain body come in.
The pain body, is that like all the baggage we bring to the table?
It's more than just baggage. It's that accumulated emotional pain from our past. Those old wounds that haven't healed.
Oof, yeah. We've all got them.
Yeah.
And they can really wreak havoc in our relationships if we're not careful.
Absolutely. But here's the empowering part. Tolle gives us tools to work with that pain body. We can learn to see it for what it is, not this permanent fixture, but energy that's gotten stuck.
Instead of trying to outrun it or numb it, We face it head on.
Exactly. It's all about bringing awareness to it.
Hmm.
He talks about becoming an observer of our thoughts and emotions.
Like stepping back and witnessing them without getting totally swept away by the drama.
You got it. And this is where the body comes in again. Paying attention to our physical sensations can help us detach from that mental, emotional whirlwind.
Interesting. So if I'm feeling anxious or triggered, I could shift my attention to my breath or feel my feet on the ground, and that could help.
Exactly. It's a way of grounding ourselves in the present moment, interrupting that cycle of reactivity.
So we're not trying to get rid of those emotions, but learning to relate to them in a new way.
Precisely. With more awareness and less resistance. And as we cultivate that awareness, we start to experience a sense of choice.
Choice. You mean we don't have to be victims of our emotions or our past conditioning?
Exactly. We can choose how we respond to our partners, to situations, to life itself.
That's incredibly empowering. But I have to admit, a part of me is still wondering, can we really maintain that level of awareness all the time, especially in relationships?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And Tolle's honest about it. It's a journey, not a destination.
So there will be bumps in the road, times when we fall back into old patterns, but it's about picking ourselves up and starting again.
Exactly. It's the practice that matters.
It's like we're learning a new way of being in the world, and that takes time, patience, and a lot of self-compassion.
Absolutely. And when we stumble, which we all do, we can approach ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we would offer a good friend.
That's such an important reminder. We can be so hard on ourselves.
We can, but remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's progress.
I love that. Progress, not perfection. It takes the pressure off. But what happens when our partner, bless their soul, isn't quite on board with this whole power of now thing?
Yes. That's where things get really interesting. And that's where we'll pick up after a quick break.
So we're back. And before the break, we were talking about what happens when our partner isn't exactly, let's say, on the same page with this whole present moment awareness thing. What do we do then?
Well, it can definitely be tricky, right? Because we can't force someone to change or even to see things our way.
And it's not our job to fix them either.
Exactly. Each person's journey is their own. But that doesn't mean we're powerless. One of the most powerful things we can do is focus on our own growth, our own practice of presence.
So lead by example.
In a way, yes. Because often as we become more present, more grounded in ourselves, it can create a kind of ripple effect.
Interesting. So it's not about lecturing our partner about Tolle's teachings, but embodying those teachings in our own lives.
Precisely. And, sometimes that shift in our energy and our way of being can actually inspire those around us to become more curious, more open to exploring these ideas themselves.
It's like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world. But in this case, it's be the change you want to see in your relationship.
I like that. And remember, it's not about being perfect, because none of us are. It's about showing up with authenticity, with a willingness to learn and grow.
And speaking of learning and growing, let's talk about those practical tools and techniques that Tolle offers for cultivating more presence in our everyday lives. What are some things we can start doing today to shift into that power of now mindset?
Well, one of the simplest practices, and often the most overlooked, is bringing awareness to those everyday moments that we usually rush through or even try to avoid.
Like doing the dishes, folding laundry, those kinds of things.
Exactly. What if, instead of letting our minds race ahead to the next thing on our to-do list, we brought our full attention to the task at hand?
So instead of just going through the motions, I'm really present for each action, each sensation.
Yes. Feeling the warm water on your hands as you wash the dishes, noticing the colors and textures of the clothes as you fold them.
It's about finding that sense of mindfulness, that quiet joy in the midst of the ordinary.
You got it. And even those tasks that we might consider unpleasant, like, say, sitting in traffic.
Oh, tell me you've got a secret for staying present in traffic jams.
Well, it's not really a secret, but it's about shifting our perspective. Instead of seeing it as an inconvenience, what if we use that time to practice mindfulness?
Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
It could be as simple as bringing awareness to your breath, feeling the sensations of your body, or even just noticing the sights and sounds around you.
Interesting. So instead of getting all stressed out and frustrated, which, let's be honest, never actually makes the traffic move any faster, we can use that time to cultivate a sense of inner peace.
Exactly. And the more we practice this, the more easily we can access that peace, even when things aren't going our way.
It's like building a muscle, like you said earlier. The more we work it, the stronger it gets.
I love that analogy. And it's not just about those everyday moments. Tolle also talks about using our pain as a gateway to awakening.
Okay, now that sounds a little intense. How do we use pain as a gateway? Aren't we supposed to avoid pain?
Well, of course, we don't want to go looking for pain, but let's face it, life throws curveballs our way, right? We're going to experience loss, heartbreak, disappointment. It's inevitable.
Sadly, yes.
But it's how we relate to that pain that makes all the difference. Instead of resisting it, numbing it, or trying to distract ourselves from it, what if we turned toward it with awareness?
So instead of pushing those painful emotions away, we allow ourselves to feel them fully.
Exactly. And that can be really scary because we're so used to running from discomfort. But here's the thing. When we bring presence to our pain, when we allow ourselves to feel it without judgment, it can actually begin to transform.
That's a radical idea. It's like we're meeting our pain with compassion instead of resistance.
Yes. And in that space of awareness, we often find that the pain itself begins to lose its grip on us. We realize that we are not our pain. We are not our thoughts. We are not our emotions.
Or that deeper awareness, that stillness that's always present beneath the surface. This has been an incredible deep dive. Thank you for taking us on this journey through the power of now. It's a lot to process.
It is. And we've only just scratched the surface. But if there's one thing I hope listeners take away from this, it's that the power to transform their lives is available to them right now, in this present moment.
Not someday, not when they achieve some external goal, but right here, right now. That's a powerful message. Thanks again, and thanks to all of you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, be present, be kind to yourselves, and keep exploring the power of now.